Probably the biggest headline maybe this morning in North Carolina is the 11th district got so much attention because of the annex of first-term Congressman Madison Cawthorn. He's faced scandal after scandal recently, so he lost that deep red district despite being endorsed by Trump. What's the takeaway from that one?
Sometimes, Joe, there are just too many scandals, too many controversies that it overwhelms you. What really did stand out to me, the incumbent Senator Thom Tillis ended up endorsing Chuck Edwards, the candidate who ended up defeating Madison Cawthorn. And so a lot of members of the Republican establishment basically moved in to defeat Cawthorn despite Donald Trump's endorsement. And
Donald Trump tried to save him at the last second. I believe that's what he's talking about as well. He goes, yeah, he did a lot of silly things. Those silly things that kept trickling out, as Madison Cawthorn described them. But apparently he said they were from the Democratic Party. And I think we can mention there again, it seems the Republicans, especially in the establishment, and folks that were around him that liked him at first were like, this is guy's too much of a distraction. And they appeared to tank his candidacy. So he did concede last night he will no longer be a congressperson from North Carolina. But with that in mind, some of the reasons that he should not be the congressperson there are outlined here. Watch.
Now confirming that North Carolina Congressman Madison Cawthorn has been cited for bringing a loaded gun to the Charlotte airport today.
Filled with passion and desire, I would like to see a naked body beneath my hands.
Then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, oh, hey, we're gonna have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, and then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy.
It's gonna be an elected official, Madison Cawthorn's firearm. House of Representatives, elected official. After that, it doesn't make a difference.
You might amend a bill, but you'll never amend biology. Science is not Burger King. You can't just have it your way. I'm about to define what a woman is for you. XX chromosomes, no tallywhacker.
There's Madison Cawthorn's career. Again, he'll come out and say that it was Democrats that did this to him, and in reality, Republicans didn't need him anymore. Honestly, they probably didn't need him in the first place. But Donald Trump needed him still because he still believed in that election lie. And it made everyone hearken back to this tweet that Madison sent out back when he won originally. And it's a very simple one. It's cry more, lib. That was back on November 3rd of 2020. I'm sure he's not crying. I feel like the stress and pressure was all on him anyway, Adrian. Before we go to details of how he lost this, first your thoughts about this guy losing.
Well, I'll definitely admit that I was pleased to see the news that he would not be returning in any kind of position of political power in terms of being a member of Congress. The thing is, he should have been booted out when there was a challenge to his eligibility under the 14th Amendment, Section 3. But unfortunately, because our system likes to set rules, but then just not apply them, of course, to certain people, he remained on the ballot. But at least now we definitely got the will of the people, which is good. And there shouldn't be any protest or uprising in any way, even though we know he's going to enter this whine blame game. But the thing that very much concerns me is what is he gonna do with all his free time other than play with his cousin? And so this is a big concern for me because in part, I just think he's gonna nestle up closer to more alt-right nonsense and push the white supremacy propaganda and get people to act in ways that are completely and totally uncivil and possibly dangerous for the rest of us. And then of course, as someone had mentioned, which would just be my nightmare, that if Trump were to make his way back to the White House, that he will definitely, in terms of Madison Cawthorn, be a part of his administration. And I really just do not want to see Cawthorn ever again.
I assume potentially part of the campaign, part of the team, but who knows? Because again, I'm not sure how closely Donald Trump is gonna have to deal with the separation between the folks in the party that are like, this guy is a disaster for us. But we have to, but then he's still on board because he has to feel this dedication to the kid who will do nothing else but just kneel before him and praise him. So a few more details before we jump out of this story, because he was going up against Senator Chuck Edwards. And of course, Chuck Edwards did win that. And as of, let's go to the second graphic here, you guys, because as of the AP race call, Edwards had received more than 33% of the vote. To Cawthorn's nearly 32%, so it was close. We'll give him that. And in North Carolina, a winner just needs to cross the 30% threshold in order to avoid a runoff election in July. And the result of a stunning defeat for Cawthorn is what this was. And he's a fervent supporter of Trump, of course, and Trump gave him that endorsement, as we mentioned. I feel like we mentioned either last night or so. I feel like the podcast is coming, then the continuing pushing of all this. Because when you're a former official, what's next? Are you going to go on cable news? They're not going to hire you. Maybe on America's One News Network, or OAN's gone, isn't it? Newsmax, one of them is gonna have to pick him up, or he's gonna just do his podcast with his hat on backwards and talk more about the orgies. We'll see what's to come from Madison Cawthorn, but for now, we haven't heard much more except for I concede.